Earlier this year, I heard about Notion for the first time and I got extremely overwhelmed. All these YouTubers, productivity experts, influencers just kept talking about Notion and how great of an application it was. This whole summer, all I kept hearing was Notion, Notion, Notion. So I decided to give it a try and downloaded the app, and within the first 5 minutes, I was completely lost. I had no idea what I was doing. But not only that, I had no idea why everyone liked Notion so much. What made this application so different than all the others? To me, it seemed like a more complicated version of Evernote or Google Docs. In this video, I'll be walking through exactly what Notion is compared to the other apps out there and why I took the time to learn more about it so I could start using it. Hi there, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. My name is Maneetpaul Singh, and on this channel, we talk about all the different ways we can use technology as a tool to live a more productive life. Whether it's to get more work done or just so we can optimize our existing workflows, every week we'll be talking about how we can accomplish this using tech. Now, before comparing Notion to other apps, I want to make clear that Notion is not just a note-taking app. And in fact, if you go to the Notion website, they make it very clear that they don't want to advertise themselves as just another note-taking application. Notion as a company sees themselves challenging the status quo. They talk about how Google Docs is basically the newer version of a typewriter, just in a different way, and how Dropbox is basically the same thing as filing cabinets, but in the cloud. Whether it's Google Docs or Dropbox, the workflow really hasn't changed for the last 50 years. We're still filing documents, they're just in the cloud now, and we're still writing documents, they're just on Google Drive now. Notion wants to be your system for everything. Rather than using 100 different tools to do all your work, Notion wants to be your central place for everything in one location. I think of Notion more of a productivity tool for project management instead of note-taking. And if you really think about it, everything in life is basically just a project. We obviously have more professional projects at work that are much more formal, but we also have a lot of personal projects happening every single day in our life, and that's why I feel Notion has become so popular. It covers both sides of the work spectrum and your personal life spectrum as well. The best way for me to explain what Notion is to take a look at the workflow of 3 different people. We have Analog Amrinder, Digital Dilpreet, and Notion Navjot. Let's dive into it. Let's start with Analog Amrinder. He's very old school. He does not like to use technology and prefers to use pen and paper for all of his work. Amrinder keeps a stack of notebooks on his desk. He keeps one for work, one for his personal journal, and another one for just Sikhi-related notes as well. When Amrinder has a new calendar event that he has to add, he actually has a special whiteboard that he pulls out to write with markers on so he can easily erase it every month. And when it comes to task management, Amrinder has a very detailed, color-coded post-it note system that he keeps on his desk to write down every single task he has to accomplish. Next, we have Digital Dilpreet. Dilpreet is a very techie person. He loves using his phone and computer. He keeps his phone on him all the time. It's the one device that has everything on it for him. Dilpreet loves to use Google Drive for organizing all of his files and collaboration purposes, and he also has Evernote to organize all of his notes in a virtual environment. When it comes to calendar events, Dilpreet loves Google Calendar. He loves time blocking his day into different segments so he always knows what to do. And when it comes to task management, Dilpreet loves to use the Reminders app on his phone to keep track of all the things he has to do throughout the day. Lastly, we have Notion Navjot. He discovered Notion a few months ago and has completely changed his life. Every morning, Navjot makes a new daily entry in his life dashboard, and Notion will automatically populate every single thing he needs to know for the day ahead. Throughout the entire day, Navjot is only working in this one Notion page, just adding new information to different parts of the template in Notion. Navjot has a central task database to keep track of every single task that's on his plate that also links back to all the major projects that he's working on every single day. And on top of that, he can view all of this information in a calendar format and switch between a Kanban board and a list view as well. Throughout the day, as Navjot is adding new information into the Notion page, Notion is automatically feeding all of this new data into all the different parts of his life system that he has set up in his database over here. It's all automatic with no effort needed after he inputs the data. At the end of the day, Navjot spends a few minutes just reflecting on the day he just had and writes a new journal entry in Notion. He also even goes on his phone and attaches a photo so he can view his journal in a gallery format with a nice visual. Alright, so after looking at the workflows of Amrinder, Dilpreet, and Navjot, we can clearly see some massive differences in their workflows. There's no right or wrong way to work. Amrinder prefers pen and paper, Dilpreet prefers using different apps across all of his devices, and then Navjot prefers to use Notion for everything. All of these options are a good way to work. One thing that we didn't see though is Notion Navjot put in a ton of time and effort earlier on to set up his Notion system to work for him. And because he did that, the system now is optimized for his daily workflow just for him. It's not a copy and paste solution for everybody else. What I personally do is a combination of all three of these workflows. I actually like to use Post-its for writing out my daily highlights for things to do every single day, and I hang that on my computer. I use Google Drive, I use a bunch of other apps for task and calendar management, and I also use Notion for all my YouTube work. I pick and choose different parts of each system that I find useful, and I put them all together. I personally feel Notion is a very powerful tool that a lot of people can integrate into their daily workflows if they just knew how to use it. Over the coming weeks on this channel, we'll be doing a deep dive into all the fundamentals of how to use Notion so you can get started with making a system using this very overwhelming app. Somewhere on the screen right now, you'll see a button for the playlist that contains all these fundamental videos. Be sure to watch the next video that'll be all about using Notion for the first time and all the basic tools that you have to know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.